Howdy, folks. Welcome to Making Sense with Move to Amend. We're brought to you live here from our respective homes from Sacramento, California, and Durham, North Carolina, and North Carolina,
Gastonia, North Carolina.
North Carolina. You're joining members of Move to Amend, the Move to Amend Coalition. My name is Keyan Bliss. I'm the Grassroots Director for the Move to Amend Coalition.
And I'm George Friday. I'm a founding member and a member of the board of Move to Amend.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you that are joining us for the first time and haven't heard about us yet, Move to Amend is a national national nonpartisan grassroots coalition of hundreds of organizations and over 470,000 individuals committed to social and economic justice, ending corporate rule, and building a vibrant democratic society that is genuinely accountable to the people and the planet first, and not just corporate interests. And in order to achieve this vision of a democracy that is representative of people's interests and not just wealthy interests, we're calling for amending the Constitution with the We the People Amendment, which would unequivocally state that inalienable rights belong to human beings, not corporations, and that money is not a form of protected political speech under the First Amendment, so that we can actually regulate it within our political process. And how we basically, we're committed to building a intergenerational, cross-class, multi-ethnic movement powerful enough to amend the U.S. Constitution with this amendment. And in order to do that, our core strategy involves not just building coalition with individuals, but actually committing ourselves to dismantling the systems of oppression and educate people about how these systems work interchangeably and interconnectedly, so that we can actually create a powerful, conscious movement that is genuinely working in solidarity with one another towards this common vision. So,
I want to add one, it may be more than one thing about that, in terms of why we Move to Amend, who we are and what we do. In order to have a real democracy where we the people matter, we have to have a movement that is intergenerational, deals with every form of privilege and oppression, bottom up, that recognizes and destroys the systems that are keeping us from having the kind of country we deserve and want.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's goes into what, our purpose behind this this broadcast as well. This is us joining you all live to really just comment and talk a little bit about what we've seen and heard across the country in the past week or so. So we tried to we wanted to start off this broadcast with a song that I think would really fit in well with one of the things going on, but we couldn't get that working right now. So I would direct you all to really check out this wonderful folk band, Emma's Revolution, and the song "I Give Your Name." George, did you if you wanted to?
If I Give Your Name.
If I give your name.
Yes. So you just go to YouTube, Emma's Revolution, If I Give Your Name. So if you don't know who Emma's Revolution is, do yourself a favor, check them out. Couple of great women performers from Massachusetts. I believe that's where they're from. That's where I was introduced to them a long, long time ago. And they're great revolutionaries, not just through music, but through the way they live their lives. And their songs reflect that. So they wrote If I Give Your Name. Okay, I got my little thing here because it's hard to talk about this without crying. I don't mind crying because I'm grown. But, I want to be cute too, so I have this to wipe myself. So we all know that September 11th was a horrible, devastating event. But like horrible, devastating events like we've experienced recently, the pandemic, the murders of innocent Black people, the shooting of innocent Black people, these horrible events also expose the deep flaws in our system. One of the ones that was exposed by 9/11, that this song, If I Give Your Name, from Emma's Revolution reveals, is all of the people that worked in the Twin Towers who weren't documented, who couldn't go to the police, who couldn't go to the public service and social service agencies and say, will you help me look for my daughter? Will you help me find my brother? I don't know what happened to my daddy. So anyway, that's what the song's about, and it's beautiful and wonderful, but you might cry. There's another song they sing, I think they're famous for, but they're famous in my heart for, and you can hear that as a follow-up. So I will listen often to If I Give My Name, and then follow with Peace, Shabbat, Shalom, which is kick-ass and will make you feel strong and will help you get through another day. So anyway, one of the reasons I thought it would be good for us to start with that song, and I'm kind of glad we didn't because I'm not sobbing. And yes, my eyes are red, but that's okay. Is that one of the things that even performing that song or listening to that song exposes that's true right now and was real this week are all of the ways we miss creating genuine community and power in this country. One of those ways is by demonizing and criminalizing people who aren't documented. One of those ways is dehumanizing people to the point where it's okay, well, not okay, but at least you can get away with shooting them if you have a badge or harming them if you have a badge. That creation of a militarized community, which could become a militarized way of being and a militarized state, is one of the many things Move to Amend seeks to remedy by encouraging us to question why corporations would have the power of people and how we can have a constitution that serves we the people.
Well said, George.
Today's my brother's birthday. I have to say happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday.
Brando, he's my baby brother. Even though he's 40-something today, he's still the baby. That's a trip. It's nice to have somebody who's always be your baby brother. It's better to have always somebody who's going to be older than you. I've got an older brother too, thank goodness. How was your week, Keyan?
Oh, wow. My week was definitely packed. I really resonated with, what you're saying in terms of opportunities and the ones that are missed, especially by those that are in political power. My week was involved arguing with my local governments on why we should spend more of our money here in Sacramento County on community-based services such as healthcare, housing support, food security and food assistance. And instead, our county's Board of Supervisors here in Sacramento County, which is where Move to Amend's headquarters is based, is unfortunately spending a majority of it on law enforcement. The Sheriff's Department, in particular, that is getting out of our $6+ billion budget is going to get nearly $600 million. $600 million out of all that. And that doesn't include what's already going to go, the hundreds of millions of dollars is going to go into our jail system, our courts, as well as the district attorney's office here in Sacramento, which loves to call itself one of the most progressive cities in the country. But
is this the beginning of your budget process or the end of it?
The end of it. They just voted.
Y'all know, they don't let people like us in on a big budget process till it's too late to do anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it's about getting in months ahead of time in those closed doors, find out where the money's coming from in the first place. Are y'all getting any federal money for tanks and shit?
There is federal money that we are getting. I don't know the exact appropriation amount for it, but we actually here in Sacramento just came off or entered this budget fight with a scandal here locally, where our county's executives, who goes by the name of Nav Gill, had grossly mismanaged our federal CARES dollars, emergency funding that's supposed to go to bolster up emergency services, particularly our public health division, as it combats the effects of this pandemic and helps save people's lives. Unfortunately, our county executive mismanaged the process so badly, he gave more than 85% of the funding to the sheriff and probations, and only 2% of it went to public health. So in the month or so leading up to this this week, we were our entire community was up in arms and rightly calling this out for the corruption that it was, to the point where our board of supervisors ended up covering itself by appropriating about $70 million in our general fund money to go to public health, like it should have been from those emergency federal dollars. But
now I know it might seem odd, that me in North Carolina, in a very small town in North Carolina, not uber small, but pretty small, is, really, really inquisitive about what's happening in Sacramento, all the way on the other side of the country. And those of y'all who are watching, this is how corporate power shows up at your door, in your local budgets, in the priorities and decisions that happen on the local level. It's not necessarily driven by the city council or the county commissioners or the board of elections, but the decisions that get made around those budgeting issues and those priorities rarely reflect what your priorities are. And where is that coming from and what's at the root of it? Those are good questions to ask, and they can help lead to a little bit of relief at the local level. But that means getting in those doors when the budget is being decided, and definitely knowing where the money is coming from, because often that money comes with strings. So, you want to be aware of that. It's ugly, but it is what's happening. And when you're talking, when I was asking you about if they got federal money. So a friend of mine was, who's a little more likely to imagine we're closer to fascism than I think, although, right around the corner, right, over the hill. So we're staying home most of the time. We're using our masks when we're outside. And if local law enforcement folks are really bolstering up, if surveillance is, getting ramped up, and all these monies are getting allocated to make our communities more militarized, more policed, and we're staying home because we want to be safe, again, by the time we find out about it to say something is wrong, it'll be, we'll look around and, oh, goodness, it looks like I'm in The Handmaid's Tale. There's armed police everywhere. There's tanks and walls and, ooh, look, a new prison. It's just, that's the nightmare. Let's not let that happen.
Yeah. Those of us that have been involved in the abolition movement into today are really taking stock of that, especially out here in California, where we have nowhere to go now, given that the entire West Coast is on fire, and here in Sacramento and across the West Coast are literally inundated with hazardous smoke, air quality levels that are only going to make the effects of this pandemic even worse, unfortunately. I've been stuck inside dealing with all the smoke for the last 3 weeks now, and it doesn't look like it's clearing up anytime soon. But to the point that you brought up about how this is like really a prime example of how corporate power works. I mean, we have to recognize, law enforcement, the police, the FBI, everybody, all of these institutional apparatuses are part of the corporate machine, and actively benefit from it as well. During the lead up to these budget hearings, our sheriff's department used its institutional platform to mobilize its supporters to call in and inundate our supervisors with calls about, how defunding the sheriff or, reinvesting, necessarily defunding, but reinvesting his funds into community-based human needs is going to somehow make us less safe. It's going to increase crime and, leave
that
us.
counters every study ever done about how you decrease crime.
Right.
Completely wrong. Completely
Exactly.
ignores all years and decades of study and research. Of course,
I need to share you this presentation that he gave later on, because it was hilarious.
With a straight face, somebody straight up told that story. That is some bullshit.
Yeah,
that is just amazing.
To the public. And it was laughable how childish it was. But he had institutional support behind him. It wasn't just the sheriff's department. It was the Deputy Sheriff's Association, one of the most powerful nonprofit unions in California, sending out mailers to people with images of a person in a mask in new clothes with a crowbar breaking into somebody's home. But if we actually look at the numbers of how they're doing, this is just the microcosm here in Sacramento. Our sheriff actually has done, despite receiving being one of the most well-resourced agencies in the state, has actually investigated fewer cases despite his growing budget. And of the cases that he's investigated, he's only arrested or charged someone, not convicted, but only arrested or charged people about 38% of all violent crimes that they've investigated. And that includes only 9.3% for sexual assaults. And then the property, when it comes to property crime investigations, which this is what a majority of our elected officials care about, property and profit, of course, above all else. They've only managed to arrest or charge someone 5.5% of the time of the cases that they've investigated. So not only are they actually not keeping us that safe, but they're reacting to cases after the fact. That's what they typically do, but they're not even doing that great of a job compared with the rest of the other law enforcement agencies across the state. But besides all that, this is just par for the course when it comes nationally. Here nationally, the United States spends upwards of $100 billion every year just on domestic law enforcement agencies. That's not including, the hundreds of billions of dollars it gives to the military industrial complex, just law enforcement. And that amounts to more than $1 trillion spent in the past decade.
Dude, that's amazing. I don't have those statistics. It's impressive that you have them. I know that, America, especially white people, love their statistics. But I'm just speaking based on experience and knowledge, my own lived experience. I see in the chat someone said they couldn't find If I Give My Name by MS Revolution. I'm giggling. It's Emma. Like Emma Goldman? Emma. EMMA. Emma's Revolution. No apostrophe. EMMAS Revolution. If I Give Your Name. Hilarious. MS Revolution. I can't wait to tell Sandy that. That would be cool. All right, dang. I don't think you need to have. It's really great that you got all those statistics. They are horrifying and infuriating, however. But all one needs to do is get your crew and go to the city council meeting. Go online, find out what their agenda is. When the agenda is anything close to the budget, get your ass and your crew down there. If nothing else, just so they know you're paying attention.
Right.
And when money comes up, make sure you're paying attention. Get copies of everything they have. If you're in a city council meeting with you and your crew, and when I say with you and your crew, you do not want to go by yourself, because just the simple security process can be intimidating. It's meant to be intimidating. Institutions exist because they want to maintain power among a certain group of people, not us. And so there are lots of structures in those institutions, not just their rules and their policies, even how the institution is built, where the doorways are in relative to all kinds of stuff, to intimidate people who aren't comfortable in those settings or used to being in those settings. So you go with 2 or 3, 5 or 6, 10 or 12 other people, and when someone comes out and they start handing things to the people in the city council as, an addendum to whatever's on the agenda, you stop shit, even if you have to stand up and some scary looking such and such hands to you, Mr. Security, and you say, I want that, I demand to have a copy of that too. You don't have to say the word demand. You can be very polite. I request a copy of everything you see. This is a public forum. I am a citizen. I have the right to see whatever you're seeing. And if they start some bullshit, y'all act up.
Mm-hmm.
Usually these things are taped. Often there's cameras there. People are ready for the 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock news. You do it. I'm not saying you need to get arrested. You can say a whole lot and not get arrested. I have not been arrested. I say plenty. And then I am larger than average. So if they want to try to drag my ass out, all right, bring 6 people. See what you can do.
Yeah.
All right, then. But, that's what's up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's honestly like one of the positive things about like this whole debacle is that like it actually mobilized a larger proportion of the county around alternatives than have been in years.
And that's a beautiful process, right?
Right.
To get people to think about, now, wait a minute, what are all the ways we can reduce the need for police in our communities and at our door?
Yeah, this whole conversation has inspired the community to take up and build a coalition around creating a genuine people's budget based off of a model that is growing in Los Angeles. And we actually just launched a survey like just a few weeks before the budget hearings that attracted more than 2,000 people to show up and show that they wanted majority of the funds to go to community needs and healthcare, creating more parks and whatnot, and like just completely countered any narrative that the sheriff was putting out. Of course, the political machine is going to like move at a at a glacial pace, but it actually inspired over 120 people to call in to the county board meeting, which is more than it probably has ever had. Actually call for a single item. So it got a lot of attention for the possibility of what could actually come when we reinvest in people and provide care for them as opposed to just providing punishment and jail and cages. So
right.
Yeah.
Hopefully people won't
be even
sit down. People won't go home. You won't forget about this next week, next month. There has to be a consistent and relentless push and demand for what is right.
Mm-hmm.
And that means again and again and again. It's like setting a boundary with someone who's mentally ill. I know this from experience. Let's imagine there's someone that you are dealing with who just doesn't get it. And you keep saying, yes, here you can have 6 of my eggs, but you can't have 7 eggs. And they take 7 eggs. Wait a second, give me that egg back. Okay, yes, you can have 6, but you can't. And they keep doing that. You just have to keep at it. And that's the way, or one of the ways we have to look to the work that we do. And Move to Amend, when you're looking for local change where you are, it's about being consistent and being relentless. Relentless doesn't mean being brutal. It doesn't mean being inhumane. It doesn't mean being harsh. It means coming back again and again and again. Mm-hmm. So do that. Make that a practice. If you're doing good things, if you see even a slight little tiny break, little tiny piece of light, push at it, work at it, get it open up till everybody can go through that door and nobody is left behind. Yes, that is awesome.
Well said.
Look, that's groovy. Somebody put something across the screen that I can see.
Hey,
that's very cool.
Good to
Santa
see
Clara
you.
County. I looked at the comments a little bit ago and saw the Emma's Revolution thing. Look, there's more people. That is so cool. Technology is a cool thing, man. Right? Ooh, the Older Women League in Sacramento. I could be there. I'm an older woman.
Hey, Yolanda, check out the People's Budget Sacramento to learn more about all this stuff. I'm sure you've been following along, so keep up the great work.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, it's been, we're going to keep going strong at this. And
what if doing people's budget becomes the norm, right?
Right?
Right.
Yeah, This is this is a growing movement, especially at least across the West Coast. Like Los Angeles is actually I heard it was looking to move forward with a participatory budgeting process. Well, now the city is actually city of Sacramento is taking that up as well and is looking to start a participatory budgeting process. Of course, they refuse to take money from the local police department to pay for it, but the fact that they're even talking about doing that is a huge step in the right direction. And now the county, after these budget hearings, is actually several supervisors had talked about during the hearings that they wanted to actually start looking into that process and bringing more community involvement in. So yeah, we're not going away. That really shows the need for persistence. Even we might not win this battle, but we're going to win the war, I think.
Yeah, and you just have to keep at it. I remember in the 2007 U.S. Social Forum in Atlanta, there were several sessions and workshops on doing participatory budgeting. A lot of the resource people around that were the literal resource people, mental health providers, alternatives to incarceration groups, restorative justice folks. There's another word that I'm not thinking of for people who had alternatives to prison, but I can't think of what they were called. But there were good resources. I bet some of those folks are probably still around doing that good work, especially the restorative justice. Oh, the Truth and Reconciliation. I forget about them because they're my least favorites. Not that I don't dislike Truth and Reconciliation people or people of faith. It's just that I'm, all that not all that big on the forgiveness part of it. I'm okay for you to reconcile stuff. Where's my reparations, mofo? So that's all.
True story. And there's actually another little bit of bright news, at least from my local neck of the woods, is that there is a growing movement, or there's growing movement around getting reparations for police response to the uprisings that we're currently experiencing right now, at least here in Sacramento.
Describe what that would be or what that would look like.
Basically, what several folks are moving around is working to put out, to basically hold the city and the local police agencies around here accountable for their violent response to the initial uprisings and the violation of their own policies. And it may ultimately, we're looking to actually get not just monetary compensation, but actually changes in policy, such as the banning of the use of tear gas, chemical agent that is it's already prohibited under the Geneva Conventions, and our local police departments just use willy-nilly, and is also really unhealthy for during a pandemic, where it'll make you cough and increase the spread of COVID. But beyond that too, the strict limits on use of force, as well as prohibiting some of the usual crowd control measures, such as rubber bullets and such like that. So there's this is only the beginning, honestly. And I don't see this, the business as usual budget that we had passed being the last story of the chapter. This is just fuel for the fire that is not going out as long as they continue to operate under the status quo.
So when you described that, Keyan, I heard it as, you said it was reparations. To me, it sounded like taking responsibility. To me, reparations is about mitigating the harm and doing as much as you can to repair the harm.
Right.
So that is more than just changing policy. Changing policy is taking responsibility and doing what you should have done in the first damn place.
Right.
What does it look like for them to say, okay, yes, we take responsibility, and this can help repair the shitstorm we have created? I have no idea what that could look like. So, and it's needed all around.
Right.
I don't see anyone stepping up, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's it's a frequent topic of conversation here in Sacramento's social justice scene, but it's I think a lot of folks that I talk with about reparations tend to like conflate it with being, it's all just about money, like, giving us our compensation or whatnot for like centuries of injustice. But really, I mean, it's more than just, a paycheck. There's more than just a check. It is changes also in policy. It is, actual access to other resources, such as, like our educational institutions, our like media institutions, like access to institutional resources that have traditionally been denied or buried, barriered from us, and like actually creating like not just equality but equity in how those resources are allocated, so that we can actually justify that. By the way, you just went on mute by accident.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thanks very much. Someone put up that Portland passed an ordinance against the use of tear gas. That's awesome. It would be great if we make that national too, so that it's not just in one place, but that's the start of it.
True story.
Take a while before it gets everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, part of that happens as we encourage people in leadership, starting with people, maybe we start with people in our own communities and people we know, to really see and express humanity, just basic humanity of all beings, and the value of all, the birds and the nature and everything, so that we're in a place where we're able to see and value life and try in every way we can to build relationships of equity, inclusion, integrity, so that we can then we'll be able to look at each other and know that, oh, okay, I don't really have to go against this person or do them harm, because they are as human as I'm human, and we can build some power together. That's a very groovy kind of hippie thing to say, but feeling some love there. One thing that came up for me this week that I'm curious about, neither of us can give good information on this, Keyan, because neither of us is white. But I was talking with a white person who was doing a fair bit of protesting around Black Lives Matter, and had some concerns about how her colleagues or her peers were acting in that setting. They were not being peaceful protesters. They were really enraged. They were, trying to take down the police themselves. Now, these are old white people, right? So they're not going to get killed. So, well, they're less likely to get killed.
Less likely.
Yeah, they'll still get beat up and killed because, it's on now. It's on for everybody. But one thing that occurred to me when she was talking and describing what those folks were doing is the ways that privilege manifests and express itself. So, white folks have privilege, and even those people, this is opinion, this is not a move to amend official statement. From what I've seen and experienced in relationship with white folks, even people who are super progressive and down, there's something about completely losing that privilege that is not okay. That is, folks use words like unsettling or uncomfortable. Now, if you've been forced to stay home, your choices are limited, you got a lunatic in the White House, elections are coming up, and that's a source of stress, I think possibly that in the same way, this is again, is George's opinion, in the same way I think folks that don't wear masks, who tend to be more conservative, are going apeshit about masks. To me, I think that's their diverting rage around Black Lives Matter. They need somewhere their rage to go. And so my rage is going to not wearing masks and talking about, things, not science, not being real. Okay, that's their delusion or whatever. Who am I to say people are deluded? Okay. But it occurred to me this week, thinking about this, is that possibly those folks who are progressive, who believe Black Lives Matter, who want to be on the right side of history, are fueling their rage into protests because it's the right place to be, it's the right time to be there, and those who feel safe enough to get in the face of police are therefore doing it, not necessarily because it's the right strategy, but because they feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And as the younger folks say, I feel kind of, no, how do they say it? I feel a certain way. I feel kind of a way about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would want to have a conversation with white folks who think, yeah, it's on. Let's go down here and get in Joe Bob's face. I'd want to have a conversation about, okay, who benefits by your tearing Joe Bob a new one? Next week, when you're back home and Joe Bob's in the alley with some brothers, what do you think that's going to mean? Your little time in Joe Bob's face, which made you feel real good, and now these brothers got here, going to have to pay for it Saturday night when they get an ass kicking from Joe Bob because you was in his face. But that's a conversation. That's a one-on-one conversation that is not appropriate for this platform. My apologies for bringing it up.
No, I think this is actually this is something that's been coming up more publicly in my spaces too, honestly. And there are of course going to be a diversity of tactics, but at the end of the day, it's really important for folks that are really seeking to be in solidarity with communities of color against racial injustice. Understanding that your actions, as a white person, aren't necessarily going, the consequences are not necessarily going to be borne upon you. We're the targets for that reaction, that backlash that comes with that. And it's
the
really
first wave or some wave of it, it
mm-hmm.
will be expressed differently upon you and I than it will be on them.
Right.
At the moment. And maybe, I mean, who are we? I have no idea. I don't live in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. I do know the experiences I have been in. I've been in somewhere white folks did suffer at the hands of the Klan more than us because the Klan were more angry at them for rolling with people who weren't white than they were at us. That was crazy. So it really is about being strategic.
Yeah.
Truly following the direction of the most affected communities. That's an easy one. That's so easy to figure out. Number one, who's got the boot on their neck? That's who you follow. That's mm-hmm. the person you follow.
Right.
And, and yeah, sometimes you got to knock the motherfucker off who got the boot on the neck before you get to follow them because they can't talk because they got a boot on their neck. But, if you can do it without burning bridges, it mm-hmm. would be best to do that. Sometimes there's no other choice. And you do have to be bold. You do have to take risks. You do have to step outside there. And sometimes that does mean getting in somebody's face.
Right.
Wear a mask.
Yeah.
But it's also important to be as strategic as possible, to think in long-term movement building ways, because we are building a long-term movement and we don't want to burn bridges, because that person who you might piss off on Thursday, you might need them next Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to maintain our principles. We do not want to in any way compromise our principles and our goals, but we want to create conditions where everyone's welcomed. And if you don't have it yet, if you haven't figured it all out, that's all right. You hang out until you do. Just, listen more than you talk for right now, okay?
Right.
Sometimes that's the right way to be.
Yeah, that's the thing I want to make clear for folks, for white folks that are eager to be in solidarity and be allies. Understand, it's important to understand allyship is not a proclaimed title. It's a process, sometimes a long and arduous one, and it requires you to build the relationship and trust authentically. And the way you do that when you show up at actions that are led by people of color is, first and foremost, show up, but don't show off. Sure, you probably have some idea, definitely of how we can go about this, but it's important to recognize people of color and those of us that are on the front lines of struggle against whether it's racial injustice, like, white supremacy or corporate rule, we know how, exactly how to end it, how to dismantle those systems of oppression. You just have to be willing to trust us and follow, and just show up and support and follow our lead. Which leads me to the second rule.
We could get a T-shirt: show up, don't show off, don't
Right.
show your ass.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
Showing your ass is saying things like, "Have you read this book by blah 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 blah?" Shut up, please.
Yeah.
Did you know the history of such and such? Please.
You are.
We do not need your expertise. We know you're smart. Be quiet. We got this.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and the next thing too is be present and just listen to how folks want you to show up and what they need you to do. You may have some expertise that are going to be really important for us, but we may need something completely different for you that maybe you're not used to doing, and we just need you to do that sometimes. Another thing too is participate. If even if you can't show up the ways that we want you to, there are plenty of other roles in which you can play. You could be the person that just brings out some bottled water for folks to show that are out in the street marching in the hot sun. You might have masks or hand sanitizers that you can offer and stuff like that. Those simple ways to really help be in solidarity, to show solidarity rather than talk about it in ways that you think that might be helpful. But understand, even if you're going to make mistakes in all of this, and it's okay. There has to be room for mistakes to be made. The key thing is, what do you do to correct those mistakes and learn from those mistakes?
Yes.
That's what's really important.
Right. It's weird. It's
I like
a weird time. Pardon? You say you like what?
Having a servant's heart and behaving that way will carry the day.
There you go. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody may not. There might be people who haven't dealt with their class issues, and the concept of servants is, something with them, or they weren't raised in a faith tradition where being a servant is a groovy thing. I don't know. I know for a lot of folks, and when I say folks, I'm thinking of white people here, have the notion that a particular analysis has to be first. And they seem to focus on analysis. Okay. Getting through every day whole in given chronic conditions of racism, sexism, all of their oppressions, that requires an analysis that is in our DNA. So, I don't need to read anything more. I don't need to do any more analysis. I don't need to hear your analysis. We can roll. You show up, we got stuff to do, and you listen, we'll get it done. That's all. That really is all it takes. It doesn't mean, therefore, that you defer power to leadership that doesn't have integrity, that isn't principled, that doesn't have a practice. So, you pay attention, and that's important.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably been going on 3 years that here in North Carolina and nationally, I've been part of the Poor People's Campaign work, which I think is very, very good. It's been building consistently and slowly. I have lots of, well, not lots, but for me, lots. Significantly more impatience at the beginning of the process. Being a seasoned organizer and whatnot, I kept thinking about what we could have been doing and what could have been better and all that groovy stuff. And that may be true, but the process that has been built is inclusive enough to bring in folks who never imagined themselves getting arrested or, fighting to end war and materialism. War and militarism and systemic poverty and racism, but they are now. And I think the campaign has built enough status and notoriety among, the idiots in the country who are running for office and trying to maintain power and keep power, that they listen. They've got a tiny bit of fear, not enough because they're, idiots. But a little bit so that they at least will pay attention. And that's been good work. We've created the conditions where sometimes people are paying attention. It's not enough. It won't be enough to win what we want to get, but it's getting us there. And it is evidence of that long, steady movement to build power.
Yep.
And we at Move to Amend are doing a long, steady movement. We are 10 years in and kicking ass, I'd say. Check us out at movetoamend.org. When we realize that we need to have this deep, broad, systemically focused movement to win what we need to win, we then made the decision to provide to our affiliates and our base and our allies and our friends the kind of movement education that will help individuals to build those kind of relationships, sustain that kind of power, and make those demands that we need to win. That's the movement education program. If you go to our website, you can hear about that or read about it. I don't know all the details, but I know they're there. I know that it's something that you can do independently. You and a group of folks where you are can get together and do the movement education program. You will be resourced so that when it's over, you'll be able to build good relationships with people in your local area, but not necessarily who are just like you. So that you can go to the city council and go to the school board. And when I talked earlier about you and your crew, that will be your crew. You and folks of different faiths, different races, different age groups, different ethnicities, different sexual identities, showing up and saying, we are standing for what's right, and here are the demands we make of you, whatever body that is that you are taking on that day. And that can be awesome work. So check that out at movetoamend.org. What's something else we want people to know, Keyan, about Move to Amend?
Yeah. The website you were directing to, if they go to movetoamend.org/education, that's where they'll find the education program that you mentioned. But a couple of other things that we encourage you to check out. Other ways to get involved, of course, sign the petition, which you saw the link earlier at movetoamend.org/motion. We also have a couple upcoming events that we'll be having here next month. Our national director, Caitlin Saposi-Belknap, will be giving a national presentation entitled Challenging Corporate Rule and Fighting for Democracy in the Age of Coronavirus. So mark your calendars for Thursday, October 1st at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern for that important conversation that really connects the dots between the current pandemic crisis and all the converging crises that we're facing and corporate rule. Other upcoming events too, we also will be having our next Take Action webinar, which will be presented by the Move to Amend's Interfaith Caucus, titled The Immorality of the Climate Crisis and Corporate Rule. That'll be on Tuesday, October 6th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can register if you go to movetoamend.org/webinars to get your to reserve your space and get a reminder when that's ready. And of course, you can always tune in to more live stream programs like this by tuning in on the fourth Wednesday of every month. We present Move to Amend's live reports on the fourth Wednesdays of the month at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And our next live report will be this coming September 30th. That's a Wednesday. So check that out as well. And of course, other ways you can get involved besides signing the petition or checking out the movement education program is to donate to Move to Amend. As a reminder, those of us on staff have been volunteering since the start of the pandemic due to the drying up of our funding resources, which 85% of Move to Amend's funding comes from small grassroots donors like yourselves. So we really encourage you, if you can spare it, however much you can spare, if you can go to movetoamend.org/donate and make a one-time donation or become a monthly sustainer if it's possible. That will be immensely helpful to keeping the momentum going and really making sure that we are continuously focused in on amending the Constitution and creating genuine democracy.
Awesome. So, do you think there are questions that we need to try to answer? I can't tell. My skills at reading things are not that good.
Mm-hmm.
I do hope the person found Emma's Revolution deal. That would be really good.
Yeah.
Um,
We posted the link up on that. Thank you, Alfonso and Millie and
oh, cool.
for
That's
putting up the
groovy. I missed that altogether. Thanks, Alfonso.
Yep.
There was a question a friend asked me this week that I want to answer for y'all. You might not need it, the answer, but
Mm-hmm.
it comes up often, and it may come up more because I told her I was already sick of the election season. And she says, what do you say to blah, blah people in my family who are idiots? And there are plenty in North Carolina. And, here we go. Sorry. And what I told her was, it reminded me of what happens with white people who aren't conscious of racism. The white people who say, I don't see color, things like that, which is crazy. Okay. Not that you're crazy, but it means you drank the Kool-Aid. And what I mean by you drank the Kool-Aid is this culture is just permeated with oppression and racism, and you cannot avoid it. It doesn't matter how progressive you think you are and all the great things you read and how brilliant your analysis is. Racism is within you. And unless you're consciously working to counter it, to root it out, to practice being anti-racist or anti-oppressive, you will be racist, sexist, homophobic, all of that. You can't do anything about it. So when it comes to your, cousin, your uncle, your grandma, who is doing stupid political things and watching Fox News or whatever, and bringing on fascism or whatever it is that you're concerned about, check yourself when you go to the place of judging them, because that's one of the other things this culture encourages us to do so that we don't build power with each other. Because there was a time when if someone said to you, Keyan, or you said to somebody, well, that's racist, they go, you accused me of being racist? Like it's an indictment, right? So
Right.
just that energy means that this culture has set up so that if you're not thinking the way I think you should be thinking, you are at fault. Instead of, oh, damn, this poor sucker right here drank the Kool-Aid. He believes that the stuff that the such and such party is telling him or her or them is true. Therefore, they're acting and behaving in a way that's counter to what a human being would really do because they have been taken in by this massive, massive crap. And y'all, it is massive. It is relentless in a bad way. And you have to inoculate yourself or be inoculated to not be fooled.
Mm-hmm.
So when you counter someone who seems to be off the chain, and many people are, it's not your job to fix them. It's certainly in mine. I'm not going to try to fix them. But if you feel, if you're, at dinner with them or in church with them, find some way to try to get them to realize they're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I told her. I said, try to make it plain to them that what they believe in their heart, because she says, oh, this is a really good person. She just thinks such and such has done a good job with, some elected official did something stupid and she thinks it's okay. So I said, well, find a video or a performance piece, something that makes it really plain that this is not the reality that you think it is. And that might get you started on a conversation. You cannot turn it around in one conversation. And you sure as hell can't turn it around by blaming them, shaming them publicly, or, yelling and screaming in their face, which will make you feel better, but things will not change. And if we really want things to change, we better find more allies than enemies, better build more allies than enemies. And yes, you can build allies from people you perceive to be enemies. We even have an exercise for it, and it's called the Spectrum of Allies. It might be in the movement education program, I don't know, but I remember it. It's been years since I've seen it. You know what I'm talking about, Keyan?
blanking on it at the moment, but I'm pretty sure I get it. Like in
The
terms
goal with the spectrum of allies is no, you don't have to win me to your side. I just need you to shut the fuck up. I
that
just need you not to be against me. You don't have to be with me. I just need you to actively not to work against me.
right.
That doesn't make you a down ally. It makes you not an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then.
Yeah, that brings to mind really a quote from one of my favorite historians, Howard Zinn, where he mentions, we are not born critical of existing society. There comes a moment or month or a year where certain information appears before us, startles us, and causes us to rethink common ideas that were implanted into us by, by education, public media, and family orthodoxies, which leads us to one starting conclusion: that we all have a tremendous responsibility to bring information that causes people to rethink their long-held ideas. Which I apologize for just butchering the quote. I couldn't find it fast enough to read off exactly, but the really point is just constantly encouraging people and yourselves to really rethink the common preconceptions that we are ingrained in from our culture. It's important that we recognize here within our analysis and that we as a nation were founded under starkly oppressive principles that are still in today: white supremacy, cis heteropatriarchy, racial capitalism, and so on. These are a part of us, whether we like it or not. We can't forget them or remove that upbringing any more than we can forget our entire childhood. So it's really important on us that we are vigilant of those principles, of those privileges that are ingrained within us, and those prejudices that come from being raised within this culture, and really just encouraging other people to examine that as well. And it may take them much longer than others, but the key thing is do the work to really bring that out.
Wow, thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate your support.
Thanks to all of y'all who showed up today, and come back next week. There'll be another pair of Move to Amend folks talking with you about making sense. It's hard to sometimes figure out ways to make sense. It's because you read a quote from Howard Zinn, who's very awesome. I wanted to read this poem, which I hope might fit or make sense. I haven't shared it on this platform. I think I may have shared it during my birthday month with Move to Amend crew, Keyan. It's very personal, but I think it's okay to share. And if it's not okay to share, then don't be mad at Move to Amend. It's by Lucille Clifton, and it's called "Won't You Celebrate with Me," which is why I think I had it during my birthday month, which was last month. But today is my brother's birthday, so I think this fits for him as it does for me. I think it fits for lots of people who don't have the traditional American, white suburban trust fund life. Yes. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up on this bridge between starshine and clay, one hand holding tight my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Groovy. I like feeling that and has failed. Well, thanks for all of y'all. Thanks to Move to Amend. The energy that you put out into the universe, the work that you do every day to move us closer to a genuine democracy, closer to a vision of the kind of world we all deserve, is most appreciated. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
All righty.